Under a cloud of dust and smoke, the streets of Gaza City fall silent once again. The al-Hawa neighborhood in the south of the city lies shattered, homes turned to mounds of grey rubble. The metallic groan of bulldozers cuts through the eerie quiet as rescuers scramble against time, searching for life beneath the debris. For many here, this has become an unending rhythm: rescue, recovery, grief, repeat. Gaza's civil defense teams are at the center of this desperate operation. With their uniforms caked in dust and faces drawn from exhaustion, they dig through concrete slabs using shovels, crowbars, and bare hands. There are few heavy machines left to assist them. Fuel is scarce, power is unreliable, and the smell of smoke lingers in the humid air. Each piece of rubble they lift might reveal a body, or sometimes a faint voice still calling for help. Among them stands Ibrahim Abu Al-Reesh, the head of Gaza City's civil defense teams. His voice, calm but weary, cuts through the chaos. Our teams are still working at minimum capacity, using only basic equipment to recover the victims, he says. We are still digging and breaking through the rubble to rescue the injured who are still beneath. His words reveal a crisis beyond the destruction, a humanitarian system stretched to its breaking point. The men and women under his command have become both rescuers and mourners, collecting fragments of lives that once were. The latest Israeli airstrikes struck homes across the Gaza Strip overnight, including this densely populated district. According to Gaza's hospitals and the Civil Defense Agency, more than 100 people were killed, making it the deadliest night since the fragile ceasefire took effect earlier this month. Families who had returned home, believing the truce would hold, now find themselves fleeing once again. The camera pans across faces covered in dust. Men, women and children staring at what remains of their homes. The ground is scattered with personal belongings: a child's toy car, a burned shoe, a family photo half buried in cement dust. The smell of smoke and broken concrete fills the air. The bulldozers continue to move, slow and methodical, clearing what once were rooms and staircases. Then, amid the noise, a man steps forward, Hani Habib, 63 years old, his voice trembling as he speaks. Tonight, he says, they brought the building down upon them. 7 people were martyred: my nephew, his wife, their son and daughter, my 2 nieces and a young nephew. 7 people were martyred. His words hang in the air like a wound that refuses to close. For him, the rubble is not just debris, it is the grave of his entire family. As night fades into a pale dawn, rescuers continue to dig. Their movements are slower now, but they do not stop. Occasionally, a shout pierces the silence. "Over here!" And the crowd surges forward. Cameras capture the moment as another body is lifted out, wrapped in a blanket, carried through the crowd as relatives cry out names. Each recovery brings a mix of relief and devastation: the relief of finding, the devastation of confirming loss. In the nearby Shifa hospital, corridors overflow with the wounded and the grieving. Doctors work without rest. Electricity flickers. Oxygen runs low. The hospital staff say the scale of injuries is beyond what their facilities can handle. Surgeons operate under mobile phone lights. Nurses run from ward to ward, their shoes soaked with dust and blood. In one hallway, mothers sit on the floor, clutching photographs of missing sons and daughters. This latest wave of airstrikes, Israeli officials claim, targeted what they described as Hamas command posts and rocket launching sites embedded in civilian areas. But on the ground, what remains are mostly homes and the echoes of the families who lived in them. The Israeli army has not commented on the casualties reported by Gaza's authorities, but satellite images and footage from the scene tell their own story. Residential streets flattened, entire blocks erased. International reaction has been swift. The European Union called for the full implementation of all phases of the US-brokered ceasefire plan, warning that renewed violence risks plunging the region back into all-out war. Human rights groups have urged both sides to protect civilians and allow humanitarian access, noting that repeated strikes in residential areas may constitute violations of international law. Inside Gaza, however, the politics of ceasefires and diplomacy feel distant. Here, the only reality is survival. Volunteers form human chains to clear rubble. Neighbours lend what little food or fuel they have left. A local imam calls the dawn prayer over a loudspeaker, his voice trembling. For many, prayer is the only constant in a world that keeps collapsing. At one corner of the Tel al-Hawa district, a young boy watches as rescuers pull out another victim. His eyes are wide, but his face shows no tears. perhaps because he has already cried them all. He clutches a small plastic bag with bread inside, a gift from a nearby aid worker. When asked who the food is for, he answers softly, "For my mother." She's still under there. The rescuers pause for a moment, their exhaustion heavy, and continue digging. Gaza's skyline is now punctuated by the hollow shells of buildings. The once bustling streets of Gaza City are filled with ambulances, smoke, and the hum of generators. Shops remain shuttered, bakeries ration flour. At night, the city is plunged into darkness, save for the flicker of candles and phone lights. The sound of drones overhead never stops. For Ibrahim Abu Al-Reesh and his exhausted team, the challenge is not only physical, but psychological. They have seen too many bodies, too many broken families, yet they return to the same scenes each day. "We do not have the equipment, but we have the will," he tells reporters off camera. "And as long as someone might be alive, we will keep digging." His words are met with nods from the rescuers beside him, their faces streaked with sweat and dust. Further north, similar scenes unfold in Khan Yunis, Rafah and Beit Lahia. Each strike leaves behind a crater, a funeral and a story. In Khan Yunis, a group of women stand near the ruins of a home, chanting the names of their loved ones. One of them holds a small photograph against her chest. In Rafah, a mosque loudspeaker announces another list of martyrs. In Beit Lahia, rescuers uncover a child's hand, the rest of the body buried too deep to reach before nightfall. For journalists on the ground, the images are harrowing. Each frame captures both the enormity of destruction and the quiet dignity of those enduring it. Cameramen wade through debris, stepping carefully to avoid live wires and unexploded ordnance. The footage that emerges tells the story of a city gasping for breath, a story that, despite years of conflict, still shocks the conscience of the world. As the day wears on, a crowd gathers at the edge of the destruction site. The bulldozer's engine rumbles, its metal arm pushing aside twisted rebar and shattered walls. Then, silence, the operator signals. Rescuers rush forward. Slowly, a stretcher emerges from the rubble. A body, small and still, is placed on it. The crowd murmurs a prayer. A mother collapses to her knees. The camera pans away, capturing not faces, but hands, hands that reach out to lift, to comfort, to cover. Back at the hospital, doctors confirm that among the dead are several children. One nurse, speaking quietly, says, "They were wearing pajamas." Her voice breaks. "They were sleeping when it happened." Outside, rows of white shrouds line the courtyard, waiting for burial. Relatives gather to identify the dead. Each name called out is met with a cry, and then silence. Across Gaza, funeral processions begin. Men carry the bodies wrapped in white cloth through the streets, chanting prayers for the dead. Women throw rose petals from rooftops. A sea of grief moves slowly toward the cemetery, where space is running out. Graves are dug side by side, fathers and sons, mothers and daughters, neighbors and friends. The earth itself seems tired. Meanwhile, humanitarian agencies warn that Gaza's infrastructure is collapsing. Water systems are damaged, fuel supplies are critically low, and hospitals face imminent shutdowns. The UN Relief and Works Agency reports that shelters are overcrowded, with thousands sleeping in classrooms and hallways. Aid convoys blocked for days finally trickle through the Rafah crossing, carrying food, medicine and blankets, but nowhere near enough for 2 million people trapped inside the enclave. The international community continues to call for restraint. US officials reaffirm that the ceasefire plan remains the only viable path to ending the conflict, while European diplomats urge immediate humanitarian access. Yet, as diplomats debate, Gaza bleeds. For people like Hani Habib, there is nothing left to debate, only loss. "They were all I had," he whispers to a journalist staring at the ruins of his home. "Now there is no one left to bury me." As night falls again, the bulldozers continue to move under floodlights powered by generators. Their shadows stretch long across the broken streets. The rescuers work in silence now, interrupted only by the occasional shout for more light, more water, more time. A thin moon rises over Gaza City, illuminating the outlines of shattered buildings. Somewhere in the distance, another explosion rumbles, and the rescuers pause, waiting to see if it means another place to go, another life to search for. In the heart of al-Hawa, what remains is both tragedy and testimony. Tragedy in the lives lost, testimony in the courage of those who stay. The images captured here, the bulldozers, the rescuers, the cries, are more than moments frozen in time. They are reminders that beneath every headline lies a human story, one that does not end when the cameras stop rolling, And so, as Gaza wakes to another uncertain morning, the cycle begins again. The dust settles, the cries fade, and the digging continues, not just for survivors, but for a sliver of hope amid endless rubble.